Welcome to Women Talking Soccer. I'm your host, Carrie Taylor. The goal of this podcast is to amplify the voices of all women who love the beautiful game. Whether you're on the field, cheering from the stands, work in the business, want to be in the business, or are a passionate change maker, your voice is important. This podcast is presented by Women in Soccer. Women in Soccer is a network of women and allies involved in our favorite sport. You can join Women in Soccer for free online at womeninsoccer.org. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Women in Soccer. Today we have an amazing guest, Alyse LaHue, who is the only female general manager in the NWSL currently with Sky Blue, and she's also a founding member of Women in Soccer. So Alyse, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you had some late nights this week, so really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure, Carrie. And I almost hate getting introed with that stat. It's like you want to feel special being the only one of something, but I'm sure even, you've been a little bit of a trailblazer yourself. It kind of sucks to hear that stat, to be honest with you.
I definitely agree with you on that, and we will dive into some of those questions as we go into the show. But can you share right now with the listeners kind of your background and how you got into soccer and some tidbits about your career and where you've been within the game?
Yeah, totally. And that was a gloomy thing for me to start with, but
it's the reality. It's the reality.
It is. It is. But yeah, I knew I wanted to work in women's pro sports. I've always been keenly interested in both soccer and basketball. I had an opportunity to study abroad when I was in college. So I went to Ireland for a while, and obviously very football crazy there. So that just opened my mind to a whole different level of soccer. We didn't really have that type of enthusiasm in Iowa around soccer when I was growing up. Certainly wasn't a sport that many people were following in my small town. So having that opportunity to be in Ireland and seeing the excitement around that, I think was super influential for me in what obviously later became my interest in becoming a general manager. So I think I knew after I graduated, I kind of had that idea of a pathway, but there was no women's pro soccer league at that time. After I graduated, NWSL had actually, unfortunately, just folded. Mm-hmm. So I decided I would just work in international business. I wanted to live abroad and decided to kind of take that pathway. But I heard about Women's Soccer Initiative 2 is what the predecessor to WPS was called. Mm-hmm. And so I heard about this league coming back, and I kind of set my sights on that. I was getting my MBA, and I knew the league was going to launch shortly after that. So at that point, I just stalked the team in Chicago. It was the closest team. My sister lived there. I followed them as closely as possible, and I was very lucky to get in with the Red Stars really, really early. Had a great mentor in Marcia McDermott, and was just very vocal that I wanted to be a GM. So I think I was in the right place at the right time and worked my way from there.
Yeah, we share Marcia as a mutual friend, and I think I heard a story somewhere where you basically told her, like, I want your job someday.
Yeah, a little bit bold, but she and I are still friends, so it worked out okay. And I certainly, I think by telling her, she did help me along. So I'm grateful that didn't backfire on me.
Yeah, no, she's great people, and that's, a good person to learn from and gain some knowledge and experience with, for sure. So how did Sky Blue come about? How did you land that job? How did you get there?
Yeah, I had actually left the Red Stars. So I was the GM there, I think about 5 years, and had been with that club 8 years in total. Mm-hmm. I actually ended up leaving. I went to the WNBA for a year out in Seattle. So great year, huge learning experience for me. I hadn't thought about coming back to women's soccer. I just, at that time when I left the Red Stars, I knew I needed a little bit of a break. Mm-hmm. But I had this opportunity to come up to Sky Blue, not a place I ever saw myself going. Just for a variety of reasons, nothing against Sky Blue, just had not envisioned myself taking this life path. But Denise Reddy was the head coach at the time. She and I have always been very close. She was an assistant in Chicago when I was there. Mm-hmm. And I was watching her journey at Sky Blue, and I knew she had some struggles there at the time, and had an opportunity to come in kind of behind the scenes for a year. So I did that. I was like, what the heck, I'll go live on the East Coast for a year, see how women's soccer is doing, and was working in the background. And about a year later, the owner actually had asked me to step up and be the GM. So that was definitely not the pathway that I I saw happening when I first came to Sky Blue, but it's a project that I've thoroughly enjoyed, a major challenge, which I love. I love to learn and grow and be challenged all the time, and that has certainly been this project without a doubt.
Yeah. In doing some research for our chat, I found an article that said you've been able to use diversity in your team to turn the team around. Is that something that like you've thought of intentionally, or like what's the mindset behind when you came in, like what needed to happen at Sky Blue?
Yeah, I sort of, to back up a little bit, I started with the fans. If you don't have the fans support, I mean, what's the purpose, at that stage? I always feel that my role as a leader of a club is just that. I'm just a conduit. I'm a tool. It's really the fans club, and they should have a say and feel ownership of it. So when I came in, the first thing we had to do was earn back our fans' trust. So that was what we set out to do very immediately. I think just naturally, I've always watched women's pro soccer leagues, and specifically the NWSL, and admittedly have been a little disappointed historically at the lack of women representatives at the executive level, at the coaching level. To be honest, it was part of why I left after 2016. I was a little frustrated at what I was watching around the league, and I decided to step out for a little bit. Didn't know if I would come back, but did end up coming back, and unfortunately the statistics hadn't changed at all in that time I was away. It was a brief year away, but even as I sit here today, the women coaching numbers at the head coaching level are actually worse. Assistant coaching, I always do want to say that I think we've taken great strides at the assistant coaching level with getting more women into those positions, even some former pro players. So that I'm really encouraged by, and I hope that many of those women are going to grow into those head coaching roles as they become available. But for me, I just think that diversity is good business. They've done studies. It's not just me talking about it.
Right.
They've done studies that companies that have boards that are more diverse have a better return on investment, better profit. So for me, I just think if we're going to represent our community, which New Jersey, New York is the most diverse place on earth, if we're going to represent our community, we need a front office that shows that. Certainly my focus, I think, was particularly on gender. And I realized even for myself as a leader, as we were sitting in our Zoom rooms very early on, I'm like, wow, we are incredibly homogenous. So I had this keen eye on, women in these high level roles, and sort of had not recognized that we weren't diverse enough. So even as I sit here now, I'm challenging myself as we continue to grow as an organization that we have to diversify even more. Right. We are not representative of our fan base quite yet. I'm super proud of, all the women that are working here and the work that I've done to bring more women into these roles, but that's just one little step, and I haven't gone far enough yet. We definitely need better representation across the board of certainly Black women as well is crucially important, I think, not just at Sky Blue, but across this league. Yeah. We need greater diversity.
Yeah, and I saw your tweet on draft night with yourself and your staff, the head coach, assistant coaches, and that really stood out to me, and something that I've kind of, and maybe you don't want to speak to this, but that I've really been thinking about lately is, there was a GM position at Orlando, there was a GM head coach position at with the franchise movement to Kansas City, and I see those as opportunities to elevate women into the spaces where decisions are being made. And nothing against the people that got those jobs, but we can't evoke change if we're not hiring people and giving them an opportunity, and specifically hiring women in a women's league and giving them an opportunity. What do you hope to see maybe with LA and Sacramento coming in to the league as far as more opportunities for women?
Yeah, the one thing I certainly can say is that early on, I think LA has set a pretty good standard. Certainly behind the scenes, I've aware of a lot of the women that they've hired in their front office, and very encouraged by that. Sacramento is very early on, so it's a little bit of a wait and see, but it almost feels like every team that comes in, it's just like, oh, the next team will do it. Oh, the next team will do it.
Yeah.
And you said it there. I mean, no offense to my colleagues. Yeah. When I talk about more women working in positions, it doesn't mean that I am against some of my colleagues. There are men that have worked in this league for years, since the beginning. I mean, Rory Dames, who I worked very close with, he's been around since year one, and he does obviously a fantastic job. So it's never anything against some of my colleagues that have been in the league for a while. But I think as these new positions become available, it can be a little bit discouraging, to not see women coming into a lot of these roles because there's so few of us. If I'm the only woman GM out of 10 teams right now, and if Freya, head coach at Sky Blue, is the only woman head coach out of 10 teams right now, I would like to think that if an opening comes up, there would be a good chance that would be an opportunity for a club to embrace a woman in that role. I think too, in terms of experience, a lot of times people will talk about experience, and my thing is that I didn't have experience when I became a GM for the first time. And ironically, I actually became a GM of a men's team, was my first gig. I had no experience. So if I never had experience, how am I ever going to get the job, right? Somebody had to just fling me into the fire and I had to flail. I probably was not very good in my early years, right? I'm learning, whole new experience. Look, that's how it goes. Until we give more women experience. I've now been doing this for quite a while. I've been a GM for, I lost track of the years, but I think I'm going on year 7 or 8 now.
Right.
Total, right? I've been doing this for a little while. Where else are we going to find women with experience if they don't get the opportunities? So I do hear that often about how, women maybe lack experience. Well, we've just got to take that leap, right? Freya hadn't been a head coach. I just took a leap on her. Okay. And now she's getting the experience on the job. This is how we're going to do it. I hope to see more of that. Just honestly, I think that there is a tremendous pool of women out there that can be GMs, that can be head coaches, that can take on these executive roles. Might be a little trial by fire. That's okay. If we can't do that in the women's leagues, where are we going to create opportunities for women to do that? So I am optimistic, while at the same time I can still remain a little bit disappointed about some of our numbers. And I've never been shy about that. And again, it's nothing against my colleagues, but I'd like to see better efforts by our clubs to start to fill some of these executive roles with more women.
Yeah. And thank you for being bold about the topic, because, if we don't speak up as women, no one else is going to speak up for us. And that's something, I've learned as my career has gone along is you have to be confident. You have to speak up, and you have to take a stand on things that you're passionate about. So thank you for being a voice for a lot of us out there. I appreciate that a lot. All right, next thing, how about your thoughts on the draft, and tell us about the exciting things in the future for Sky Blue. There were some trades, some allocation money, lots of players.
Yeah, it's every draft is it's such a wild time. And, I think so many people see the excitement of the draft, which is, well, I typically like to think it's a little bit shorter, but 4 to 5 hours now, apparently. They see that window of time where everything's happening live, but that is like months of planning. And even with those months of planning, you go into draft day and it's just like, you're in the middle of the vortex and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what your colleagues are going to, all of a sudden, somebody that wasn't even on the radar for a potential trade, all of a sudden out of the blue with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock, hey, swoops in and says, hey, how about this? And you're going, oh my,
oh crap.
Oh my. Yeah. And you're looking at your notes, and I've got my yellow pads that are full of notes from months that I've done every scenario you could think of. And that was not one that I had in my notes. So it is such a wild ride going through the draft. And I think, as I said to my colleagues, this was Freya's second draft. The first one, she had just been hired not that long before. So this was her first draft where she really had a lot of planning behind it. It was our assistant coaches, Becca and Becky. It was their first draft. So being in the excitement of it all, it can really get to you, to be honest, when you're in that whirlwind and people are throwing you offers. And I think the main thing is to stay calm. I always say, you somehow got to keep a level head when you've got all these exciting, enticing opportunities being thrown at you, or, we got a little windfall of allocation money. And then all of a sudden people are saying, oh, well, how about this for 100K and this? And it's just a wild day. It's exciting. without a doubt. Certainly when you have a lot of picks in the first round, your day is going to be pretty hectic. But again, there's so much planning that goes behind it. And we had a little joke about Meg Linehan being in our room. I had asked somebody to make a little cutout of her. And the backstory is that she shadowed us last year at the draft, which some people may not know or may not have seen the article, but she shadowed us for several days leading up to the draft and through the draft, and then put out an article on it. Which I thought gave good insight into sort of the background of what happens and how much planning goes into it. Certainly it was no different this year. It's a lot of work going into the draft day, but we're happy overall with how we came out.
Yeah. You got Jennifer Cujo back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did.
She was that was like the best story of the bubble and the season, and her, being found at a tryout. Can you kind of talk about how you guys came about her, and just, if people don't know her story, just share that with us a little bit.
Yeah, Jen Cujo. So she's originally from Ghana. She had played some collegiate soccer in the US, I think very under the radar. Played WPSL for Asheville, I think in recent years. She just came to our open tryout. She was not a player we were overly familiar with. And this was last year's tryout, of course. Not a player we were overly familiar with, but I remember walking to tryouts and, hey, Freya, how's it going? This player right here, like, check out this player. What do you think? And I watched her for a little while, and I was like, well, I think she might get a few yellow cards, but I can see the skill there. I said, I'm going to leave the decision to you. And Freya was like, I got to take her. This young woman's got something. And so, we brought her in, and she's just such a personality. She's a phenomenal person, phenomenal player. We really enjoyed Jen, and it was very difficult. I mean, when you're creating your protected list and unprotected list, it's a devastating process to go through. It really is. And you're weighing out so many variables of what that looks like. And sometimes you might leave an international player unprotected because you're going to take that risk that, they don't want to pick up a player that takes an international slot, or you might leave a player unprotected because they have a slightly higher salary. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes. And then there's just, all the reconnaissance that you do and hearing like what players, the expansion team might be looking at, et cetera. So again, that's another process. There's just so much work behind the scenes that goes into it. And we had always been in talks with Louisville, even before the expansion draft, about essentially trying to protect our players so that we could get through the draft unscathed. And I feel we came very close several times on doing that. So I think it was never a case of sort of leaving Jen unprotected. It was just two players were going to get selected no matter what. And we always had it in our purview that we were going to create some concept of a trade where we could keep those players and essentially come out of the expansion draft without losing anybody. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. But when we had this opportunity on draft day to be able to bring Jen back, it was tremendous. So if you had told me before that we could, save another slot by, essentially giving up a second round pick and $35K in allocation, no brainer. I'd do that every time. It kind of stinks that Jen had to go through that process of, being unprotected, being selected, then not knowing, packing her boxes, and then, being brought back to Sky Blue. But she called me the morning after the draft. I know the night of she was a little emotional, but she did call me the morning after the draft, and I was very groggy and very tired. It was a late night, and she was just like a sunbeam. I mean, she was excited on the phone and so excited to stay at Sky Blue and to be back with her teammates, and just sharing her gratitude with me about us, still believing in her and taking those efforts to bring her back. So that's Jen's personality in a nutshell. And she's just great to have around. And I joked with her that she had been making dinner for a lot of the players when we were in Utah in the bubble, because we had little kitchenettes in our room. And I missed out on the plantains. We had a barbecue and I was so mad. The players scooped up Jen's Ghanaian food really quickly and I missed out on them. So it's always been a joke. I said I had to bring you back because I never got to try the plantains that you made. And I saw she was doing all these going away dinners with the players. So I was like, oh, well, you got to stay now, Jen. I haven't been able to have your cooking yet.
Oh, that's such a great story. And I know, like, there's a lot of fans out there that really, love her story. And that's just so great. Like, I was so happy when I saw that. And I feel like
our fans too. Our fans. It was the most engaged post I think we've had in an exceptionally long time. So yeah, we know she has a strong following.
That's great. That's great. So can you talk about your involvement with the Women in Soccer group and kind of why you said yes to being a part of Women in Soccer?
Oh my gosh, just say the words women in soccer. I feel like that's my bread and butter. I mean, I don't think I didn't have to think long about that. I've always been an admirer of Women in Football, which is the UK group, and have actually done some things with them. I've been on roundtables, met some of the members, and talked to Jane. So I've always appreciated their group. So when I heard that, Courtney was working to develop Women in Soccer, which obviously kind of a US version, absolutely thrilled. I mean, she reached out and just said, hey, I don't know exactly where this is going to go. This is the idea I have. What do you think of it? And I'm like, yes, go do it. Let's go. What do you need from me? Let's make it happen. It sounded great. And I had just talked to her early on and just gave my words of encouragement and said, whatever I can do to help to be a part of this. And the first event that was held recently with all the different panels, I mean, that was awesome. It was so fun. It was so rad to see other women and allies in the women's soccer space. And the panels were incredible to watch. So I'm so excited for what Women in Soccer is going to do, just to unite the soccer community and women working in it that have maybe sometimes felt a little disjointed or haven't found ways to stay connected. And for me, I'm especially excited because I'm always so keen on the next women that are going to come into these roles. To go back to what we were talking about, I'm lonely. Like I'm a lonely GM, like being the only woman, you like want other women to talk to. And, Steph Lee was in Utah and like, I could always kind of rely on her to call. But it can be a really lonely gig. I say that kind of jokingly, but it's actually true. And there are so many years where I've been the only woman GM. It's probably most of the years of my career, quite frankly. So I'm used to it, but it doesn't make it any sort of less lonely. So I think even for me at the level that I'm at, it's exciting to think that I'm going to be able to engage with all these other women that are interested in working in soccer or maybe are working in another area, aren't GMs yet. I hope I can be helpful because I don't want to be lonely anymore. I want more women coming up into these roles. So if I can be helpful in that, then any organization that's going to contribute, I am all for.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody that doesn't know about women in soccer, there's a website, womeninsoccer.org, and basically it's a platform. Somebody summed it up like LinkedIn for women in the game. So you don't have to just be a coach or be a player, or you can be a fan, you can be an ally, you can be in the front office, you can play in a Sunday league. It's just an open network for women. It's free. We're doing amazing things with it. Brandy Chastain's going to have Brandy's Corner, which is launching, I think, this next Wednesday. Lots of stuff. Alyse, we need to get you doing like a webinar or something. And
I'm on it. We're gonna have game night with Brandy, I think. That's gonna be
are you doing the Scrabble? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think we have to. We're just gonna do like a universal game night. But yeah, I'm so stoked. I gotta tell everybody, you gotta get on that Brandy's Corner. The next one, I actually made you guys move it because it was the night of the draft.
Oh, that's why it changed. That's why it changed. Okay.
Yeah, there was a little I was like, hey, we have a draft that night, and I don't know how long it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I really want to actually be on this because the topic sounded awesome. So I'm so glad it got moved, but I'm gonna be there. So
yep,
I'm
I've already. Me too. I've got my Eventbrite ticket, and it's free. Again, it's free, so check that out for sure. A couple more questions. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you've got a lot going on, but where do you see yourself in 5 years, and where do you see the league in 5 years?
Oh, that's a good one. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Look, I felt this Sky Blue project is a bit of a long-term one. I've got a big vision for it, but when I say long-term, I usually I'm thinking like 2 to 3 years. I usually never go to 5. It just feels so daunting. But I've had big hopes and dreams for this club. I think any club that's in the New York, New Jersey area needs to be strong. It needs to be a strong representative of the league and a destination for players to want to go to. And not just in the NWSL, but around the world. And now we're seeing these kind of super clubs around the world form. And I'm not saying I'm going to have the, roster that Lyon does, but I want to be a recognizable team around the world that when you bring it out, players know who you're talking about. And I think we've got a little ways to go in terms of that positive brand recognition. So That's a big project for me. And that means everything top to bottom. That's your fans, that's the game day experience, that's the type of diverse organization that you are behind the scenes. And I've got a ways to go there, without a doubt. So this project's still going to take me a while. And then at the league level, tremendous growth. It has been incredible what has happened over the last year in NWSL. And that's even with a pandemic. So I think Lisa Baird should be absolutely commended. She came in as commissioner, I think a couple days before the pandemic really blew up in early March of last year. And she's done a tremendous job of guiding us, getting our board of directors all on the same page, looking at a long-term strategy for the league. So doing both the short, the immediate, like let's survive COVID, bubble tournament, all of that, but also looking at a long-term strategy for what this league looks like. So I think the growth of this league over the next 5 years is going to be astronomical. And for those that get in early, you know, that are going to be a part of this ride, I think the return on investment is going to be incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have to echo. I don't know Lisa yet, but from the outsider's perspective looking in, she's done a fantastic job. And, you know, just seeing the statistics, the proof is there, the like 500% increase in viewership, you know, being in the bubble, having 0 positive COVID, like it was fun. I don't know how much fun it was in the bubble, but it was fun watching the games, and it was great to see. And you know, unfortunately, NWSL and the WNBA really didn't get all the publicity about how awesome they navigated COVID. And, you know, again, sports media and the percentage that is given to women is very small, and that needs to change as well. But, you know, my hat's off to the NWSL and to the WNBA on navigating 2020 for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So now a couple questions on a personal note. Do you have any like favorite quotes? I ask this of all the guests. So do you have any favorite quotes that, like, you know, are kind of your mantra or things you live by? And book recommendations for people, any good books you've read in the past little bit?
Ooh, catching me on the spot.
Yeah, those are the two that I just pop on people.
Did you send that in an email? And
I didn't. I didn't.
Okay, because I was like, oh shoot, I'm unprepared again. Here
we go.
Oh,
no. These are just like off the cuff. Those are my two off the cuff questions.
Oh gosh, it's just so probably just super lame, but I just am on a kindness kick. I was just trying to take that angle. So, and maybe I'm just trying to make myself be kinder, but it's not a quote. But for me, just I keep going back to the mantra of just be kind. This is a really, really tough time for a lot of people. And I think people are suffering in ways that they don't show or that you can't see, that you may not know. So I think especially now is just be kind. People are going through so much. Super simple. Not a full-on quote. It's not Gandhi or anything, although maybe you said that. So I'd have to just stick with that one for now. And then, yeah, I'm a pretty voracious reader, but it has been really busy the last couple months with some of the club stuff I've been doing. I did read Nonviolent Communication. It's by a professor called Rosenberg. I think Marshall Rosenberg. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. But that was an incredible book, and it actually was just again about communicating with others, and it's something that I've been really practicing as a leader is working on my communication. I always want to grow. I know I have so much more to learn as a leader, and in the way I interact with people or players, my staff, the public. So nonviolent communication was one that I really, really enjoyed. And I think I took a lot of tactics from there that have been incredibly useful for me. I just read that one a couple months ago. So okay. I'd say that's probably the big one. I'm racking my brain. I've read so many books lately. But that's probably the big one that I would recommend to folks.
Okay. I just wrote that down because I've been told in my career that I need to work on my communication. So I will.
Oh, there you go then.
I will check this out and try to.
I'm looking at my bookshelf over here to see what other ones I've read lately, if I should be making more recommendations to you. But yeah, that's a big one. And then I think a book that I often return to, it's got a lot of earmarks in it, but When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. Okay. She's somebody that I've followed for a long time, have a lot of her books, but not to sound like doomsday during the pandemic of when things fall apart, but it's just about, I think it's called Hard Advice for Difficult Times.
Okay.
So, and who isn't going through a difficult time right now? So I think there's a lot of just really lovely sentiments. And actually, if we're talking quotes, actually, she has some of my favorite quotes of all time. That just sprung something into my mind there.
Give it to us. Give it to us.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes of hers is that, hopefully I don't butcher it, but you're the sky, everything else is just weather. So it's about not sort of overreacting to things that are coming at you, for better or worse. Just to kind of like keep your calm, and whatever happens, like, you're going to get through it. Everything's going to be good. I'm paraphrasing for her, but
I get the idea.
Stay chill. So yeah, you're the sky, everything else is just weather.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a really great sentiment. Any final musings, words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
Final musings. Well, join Women in Soccer if you haven't yet. If you're listening to this, I think you probably
hopefully.
Yeah, I would think you'd fit the profile. So if you haven't already, join the group and engage. I think that's even bigger. It's one thing to just join and be on the peripheral, but don't be shy. Like, engage, be a part of it, ask questions. I try to make myself as accessible as possible, even though I feel my schedule gets busier by the month, but I try to be very accessible, especially to other women that have a dream of being a GM or a dream of being in some kind of high profile position in women's sports. So, I'm a part of the group. I'm there. I think my contact info is public. If not, it's LaHue@skybluesoccer.com. So anybody can reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find on social media as well, at LaHue. So I always say to people, just reach out. It doesn't hurt. And if I don't respond, it's only because my email inbox probably went bananas and I overlooked it. So just ping me again if I don't respond. I usually try to be as helpful as I can.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to you and your accessibility. And I reached out to you this summer, and we had a call prior to the Women in Soccer stuff. And I just want to thank you again for that, of being available. And that's the one thing, as women, we never know who we can help. And if people don't ask, and if we're not open to just say, yeah, let's have a call, that goes a huge way. So from me to you, thank you for that. I really did appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasures. Yeah. Be brave, reach out, be like Carrie. There we go. That's our parting words. And
yeah.
You are a brave soul. I mean, we could I need to interview you, I think. That'll be the next one. Let's interview. Who's going to sit in your seat when you're getting interviewed? That's the question.
I don't know. You can interview me. That'll work. Well, Alyse, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll know when the season will kick off soon. I know you probably can't release that yet, but we will.
I don't know.
No one knows.
Only what's been public so far. We don't have a schedule yet. So
okay.
Sometime in April, I think.
Well, that's good. Well, I'll tune in, and I'm going to get online and I'm going to order a sky blue scarf for my backdrop.
Yeah.
I need a sky blue scarf up there. So I'm going to get on your website and order that. But thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with the upcoming season. Keep being the kick butt leader you are for not only women, but for men in the business. And just, we really appreciate the standard that you're setting out there within the NWSL. So just keep up the great work.
I feel like in this room we can say kick ass, right? That's,
okay. Kick ass.
You put that bill too. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Carrie, and really appreciate this.
Sounds great. Thank you again.